Yeah, we live. Yo, yo, we live, we live, we live, we live. We just had a beautiful, beautiful interview with Iran El Haik. I'm gonna put a video on, and I got my brother coming on real quickly. Um,
Glory to God on the highest, and on earth, peace to people of goodwill. As I mentioned in a recent YouTube community post, TGC Ministries, which is a channel run by the former Sakari members Hakan and Hassad, that channel put out a 3-hour video just last Friday, which further explained their move away from Lashawan Qadash. And because of its length and because my time is somewhat limited, I have not yet watched it carefully in its entirety, but I have watched significant portions of it up to this point. However, my Facebook algorithm is apparently doing a bit of good work as posts from others about the show, posts from accounts that I was not previously familiar with, have been appearing in my feed. And seeing some of those posts inspired me to make a very quick video before heading off to church. Now, some of the posts are critical, like this one, with a caption that I'll slightly paraphrase as, quote, "These fellas are bugged the freak out trying to change the name of the Lord in Christ," end quote. And looking in the comment section of that post, it seems that the author of the post is under the impression that having a range of vocalizations in Hebrew somehow hinges on the nikud, on the diacritics developed by the Masoretes, which is a very common misconception among proponents of Lashawan Kodash, and it's one that Hakan, Hassad, and their guests have addressed. Now, I showed that only to say that while some are clearly upset about the evolution of Hassad and Hakan on this topic, those who are upset might not yet understand their arguments. But whatever the case, aside from that, I also saw this thread, which expressed a very positive view of their recent presentation. And it was a comment on this post that inspired me to make this very short video to offer a brief historical note to supplement the discussion with, a bit of historical information. And the relevant comment reads, quote, "I just don't understand how the conviction against Lashawan Kodash came so suddenly," end quote. Now, in the presentation from last Friday, Hassad alluded to his own attempts to grapple with the subject privately, searching for ways to prove the system true and also for ways to rebut the criticisms of the system. Right? So this didn't happen suddenly. Rather, Hassad and Akha were contemplating this topic behind the scenes for years. But this is where I wanted to add a relevant detail, again, for the historical record. So here it's worth mentioning Zion Lex, who's also recently been on Hakan Hassad's recent videos on this topic. You see, Zion Lex's first video, which was critical of Lashawan Kodash, is more than a decade old. It went up in 2015, and it was actually a re-upload of a video I had made for the Truth After Knowledge channel a few years prior. And that video had arguments which also appeared in Hassad and Hakad's recent presentation, like, for example, the appeal to the crown, the cross, which you see on the screen. And I wanted to mention that video because Sakari, the group that Hakkad was part of at the time, was aware of that video, as Al-Azhar made a brief comment about it that same week.
So Zion Lex publishes a damn video within the last couple of nights. Zion Lex publishes a damn video. And in Zion Lex video, he calls himself coming against the Lashawan Qadash founded in One West. He called himself rebutting that, trying to refute it, using basically plagiarized information. Be original, homie. Please, because that was plagiarized information.
Now, in that clip, Zion's video was disdainfully waved off as quote unquote plagiarism, but the points in that video were not adequately addressed. And in the decades since then, Zion's arguments against Lashawan Kodash have continued to expand and diversify and become more sophisticated. And I wanted to mention this because, again, Hakkad was in Sakari at that time, so I'm sure he was aware of that video, right? You see, the historical relevance here is that Hakkad has probably been thinking about these arguments for over a decade. And he and Hassad have now matured to the point where they publicly agree with the criticisms of Lashawan Kodash. And that's all I wanted to show. I just wanted to provide a bit of historical context to their evolution. But before I close this video, I should add a couple of disclaimers. First, although I showed an old clip of Al-Azhar, I do not intend this as any sort of polemic against him. In the past, I've touched on how I see him as a very creative and gifted individual with tremendous potential, and I continue to take that position. And so on this particular topic, I look forward to seeing where he goes from here, his own evolution on the topic, etc. Now, regarding Zion Lex, I mentioned that his first video on the topic was a re-upload of a video I had made, and I showed a critique that waved it off as quote-unquote plagiarized. So I want to make clear that I do not endorse that criticism, nor have I ever taken that view. None of my videos are copyrighted. I see my work on social media as an attempt to contribute resources that others can use. Moreover, everyone, myself included, learns from others and adapts tools that are previously employed by others, right? But with that in mind, I wanted to add that one reason I appreciate Hassad and Hakka making their recent videos and bringing on Jedediah Melech and Zion Lex in those videos is because I think for some, there are emotional barriers to even considering the arguments against Lashawan Qadash. A lot of discussions on social media get treated almost like team sports. So some won't seriously consider or contemplate certain arguments if they're from another perceived faction, another quote-unquote team. And for that reason, men like Zion and Jedediah and now Hassad and Hakka are able to get past the reflexive defenses of some and help those individuals take the time to sort of pause and take a deep breath and fairly consider the topic without those aforementioned barriers. And so rather than thinking of arguments as being tied to brands or teams or individuals, right, these arguments should be assessed on their own merits. And for that reason, I appreciate the way Zion and Jedediah and Hassad and Hakka are able to help others with that, right? You see, Lashawan Qadash has unfortunately been used for decades as a tool to keep sincere young men from meaningfully learning Hebrew. One West leadership never seriously learned the language, the Hebrew language, and the men they influenced were sort of psychologically manipulated into recoiling from the myriad resources that were available. And so I respect and I appreciate when those sorts of barriers are broken down and people are now given the ability to take a more dispassionate and academic approach. But with that, I'll close this video here. As always,
shout out to Abu, man. I learned a lot from Abu, and he's fair, with his dialogues and how he breaks something down. We gonna get into DNA, so let me just play this video and then we get right to it.
Glory to God in the highest, and on earth, peace to people of goodwill. So Pacrasino Lee, the administrator of the Biblical Rumble Room Forum on Facebook and the host of the Biblical Rumble Room channel on YouTube, recently posted a video from his channel to his forum. And it's a video titled GC number 273, White American Man. The 1948ers aren't Semites. Now, quick technical note, the letters GC at the start of the title stand for Gentile Confessions. So he's saying that in this video, a quote-unquote Gentile is confessing something, namely that Israeli Jews aren't Semites. And the video presents a clip of the popular political commentator Jimmy Dore stating that DNA can bring that fact out. So here, let's take a look.
According to some ancestry websites, there are indicators to tell you if you possess Jewish DNA or not, but you need a court order. And why is that? Because they don't want people to know that the Jews who live in Israel aren't from there. They're not Semitic.
And the clip even humorously ended with a bell ringing as if a fight were being stopped.
I'm taking too many punches here. If my life was a fight, they would have stopped it by now.
But whatever the case, the gentleman who posted that video invited everyone to comment, literally tagging everyone. So I left a comment which read as follows, quote, "The video seems to presuppose that there is a genetic standard that can be used to determine whether an individual is or is not Semitic. Do you think it would be a good idea to determine what that standard is and apply it across the board, for example, to Ashkenazim, BHIs, WHIs, Latino-only Israelites, etc.?" End quote. Now, that seems like a fair proposal, right? a single consistent standard by which all Israelite claimants are measured, right? Jimmy Dore had some genetic threshold in mind. So, let's see if the cohort Pakrasino wishes to declare Israelite or any other claimants can meet that threshold, which Ashkenazim and other Israelis are apparently failing to meet. Now, do you think Pakrasino would agree to that? Well, here's how he responded. Quote, remind us, Abdelmasih al-Manhatani, and maybe you can do a little search inquiry regarding my statements about the purpose of the Gentile confessions list. While you're at it, search my past opinions on DNA tests too. Your defunct ring of clowns called the Yap Gang should also be able to help you with that, end quote. All right, if I can put this bluntly, this is Pakrasino collapsing on his own polemic, right? But let me attempt to elucidate what he's alluding to in his reply to make that more clear. First, regarding his quote-unquote Gentile confession videos, they are honestly little more than instances of him just circling back to his own presuppositions. And that can be seen preliminarily in the fact that he doesn't know the lineages of any of the people he's labeling Gentiles. For the record, he holds to a patrilineal definition of Israelite. So when he calls someone a quote-unquote Gentile, he's not making a claim about their, for example, halachic status, right? Rather, he's making a claim about their paternal lineage across millennia, something he doesn't actually have any knowledge of. But putting that minor point aside, the sort of empty circularity of his Gentile confession videos can be seen in a more significant way in how he just expects people to accept the conclusions without contemplating the arguments or methodologies behind those conclusions, right? He just wants a conclusion that he likes to float in the air by itself without any argument serving as its foundation, right? So he's never actually making a consistent argument with those videos. And he has literally hundreds of videos like that. Hence why this one was listed as GC number 273. And now, as for his position on DNA, he's alluding to how he rejects the idea that DNA can be a reliable tool for answering questions like this. So notice how he starts out by promoting the idea that DNA shows that mainstream Jews aren't Semitic. But once he's asked if that standard can be applied consistently, he suddenly reverts back to waving off DNA. As I said a moment ago, he immediately collapsed on his own polemic. Now, on a closing note, I suspect that rather than address this inconsistency and try to correct it, Pakrasino and his supporters are more likely to claim that I'm quote-unquote defending Israelis. The reality, however, is that I'm not. I'm merely asking for a consistent standard. I'm fine with there being a standard that most or all of the mainstream community can't meet. I'm just asking that such a standard be applied universally. Unfortunately, Pakrasino and others like him feel threatened by consistency. They just want a false dichotomy in which if the mainstream falls short, then their preferred group automatically wins by default, without question or comparable scrutiny. And we saw the same sort of inconsistency with the fiasco over Eran El-Hayek's platform, right? El-Hayek insists on a very strict standard that Ashkenazim can't meet. So certain channels started promoting his platform. But once the hosts of those channels realized that their preferred alternative couldn't meet that standard either, they threw Al-Hayek's platform under the bus. And I'll link to some relevant videos in the description. Now, I don't agree with their artificially imposed false dichotomies, right? I don't think a standard has to be dropped simply because neither their preferred claimants nor the object of their polemics can meet it, right? Why couldn't it simply be the case that both fall short? Food for thought, and God knows best. But with that, I'll close this video here. As always, I welcome any comments, questions, or objections. So feel free to share your thoughts, whether positive or negative, and God bless.
This is ridiculous. What is the NBA doing? Adam Silver, what's really going on? The NBA should have.
All right, go ahead. Go ahead, Dan. You wanted to say something about DNA earlier? Go ahead, bro.
Hey, peace. I was just listening in to what Abu was saying. But as far as DNA, I don't even know. Give me a second. What you want to talk about? As far as the interview just went, or
homeboy straight up just said there's an Israelite component, bro. That's crazy, bro. That is crazy.
It's a frequency. I mean, I don't know what that frequency is. He said it's not a haplogroup, it's not a Y DNA, it's not an MT DNA, it's a frequency. So it's something that's statistically
it's under Torah, bro.
Yeah, I guess so. It's something statistically, there's the F1 through F4 statistics that you could place them underneath, but I don't know what the frequency is. So I think we should just wait on that yeah, there's something that him and Israel Finkelstein is working on. So that's a big, bombshell right there, bomb drop. That's breaking news, I guess, because I mean, if Iran al-Hayek is working on a project with Israel Finkelstein, I don't know if he's specifically, helping out with the ancient, Judean samples that they just published. I posted on my community if nobody's aware of it. So they found these ancient Judean mass grave site at Tel Azaha. And basically, a lot of infants were found in this mass grave, right? So I don't know if he's working on that because he didn't tell us, but I have no idea, to be honest, Garfield, what he was talking about the frequency. No idea. I don't know what that is. I might have to go talk to Dr. Connie Mulligan to find out, because what it could possibly be. I could email her and find out what frequency could, Homo sapiens sapiens carry to say, hey, we are distinct to this population because of this frequency. I don't know what that could be, to be honest. Like, is it a disease variant? Like, the Benin sickle cell anemia? Like, is it that? Like,
yo, that shit is crazy, bro. That shit is crazy.
Like, it has to be like something, because it has to be like a specific, gene, like a variant or something that they carry in this ancient population from the Levant, that it can be predated back all the way to he said 6,000 BCE. And so when he said 6,000 BCE, or he said 6,000 years ago, to say something like that, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense, because that's what I was trying to, because the conversation was rushed, right? So we basically had to rush all these questions in 30 minutes. And he went over a little bit for us, which, I appreciate. Shout out to him for that. But yeah, the frequency, it caught me off surprise. Garfield had to get back on video, because he was like, wait, what? Can you share that component with us?
Yo, dudes is weird out here, yo. This shit is weird. Weird. Wow. That's all I gotta say. That's weird.
I mean, it's cool though. He's working on new research though, but he still believes in the Khazar. I don't know. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense, but we'll find out. Is there anything like specifically other than that, like you want to talk about real quick?
Yeah, as far as DNA, I just think that there's no one magical test that's going to tell you. But the reason why we care about, and I could speak for Dan on this, that we normally care about the paternal, because Hebrew Israelites,
Right.
you go by the father, and I'm saying you can't. There's no way for you to trace back all the way back then. And we're looking at the samples that we have. I mean, if you go on cell.com, I think they got the original documents. I mean, you probably have it somewhere else. But where they had over 70 samples, they had over 30 samples somewhere else. They had 5 originally with the Canaanites. I think that was 2020. And they're saying, the Canaanites go back to like Lebanon or whatever with those 5 samples. Then they had they had come out with it 2 years later, they came out with like almost 170 to 100. And they're showing primarily J1, J2s or probably here and there or whatever, maybe a E1, B1B, maybe, but you don't find no E1, B1A. We're saying, okay, that doesn't say everybody's there is not E1, B1A, but for some reason they can't find none. There's no sample of E1, B1A. And if you look at what I was going to ask him, I forgot to ask him, because they found West Africans watermelon in one of the pharaoh's tombs. I think King Tut's tomb, right?
Yeah.
They found the pottery that they used to do at Mali. So there is a migration going in that direction. So even the pyramids are based off of the mastabas. The mastabas is what they used to bury the dead in. So the mastabas, the origins they feel comes from West Africa. I'm not even making this up. Hold up, I'm gonna show you what I'm talking. This shit is deep.
There's definitely some connections on LinkedIn that I could probably share. Some Egyptians that are doing the Egypt Genome Project that I follow on LinkedIn. They might be able, I don't know, but I don't know if they speak English. But if you can find somebody that speaks English that'd be willing to do an interview or talk about, what they found as an archaeologist. I don't know. I mean, I feel like Zahir Hawass basically like still runs so much in his older age that he basically nobody speaks outside of archaeology. Outside of him, he's basically still the spokesman for ancient Egypt when it comes to archaeology. It's the truth. Like he's still like the spokesman and stuff. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Hey, usual, you're gonna have a bombshell. So Garfield, like even me and Garfield was like, wait, what? Wait till you find out what haplogroup Iran al-Hayek belongs to, what his Y DNA is. So he actually, you and him share the same Y chromosome. I'm just gonna say it like that. So nobody else knows it. Don't put it in the chat either, Johnny. Just you and him share the same Y chromosome. So.
Well, let me show this. This was I actually lost my whole profile regarding the Jabari debate, but this is some of the stuff that I actually could recover. I want you to look at this carefully.
Yeah, usual. You and Iran al-Hayek are brothers, lost tribes of Israel.
Yeah, this is about the West African influence. Put it back down to 150, see if it shows. Nah, let me put it back at 100. All right, let me make it the whole screen. West African Egypt influence, right? The initial movements westwards across the Sahara and almost a millennium later, eastwards towards the Nile Valley are likely to have been caused by the succession of drought episodes at 7600, 6800, 600, 6100, 5800, 5500, 5400 Cal BC. Domestic African cattle were thus introduced by successive movements to the Central Sahara, the Nile Delta, and the Sudan within a span of a millennium. The link between Saharan droughts and the origins, as well as the spread of cattle in North Africa, have been previously tackled and given. However, the emphasis in this contribution is on refinement of radiocarbon age chronology, considerations of such and such, whatever. All right, now watch this. The appearance of megalithic monumental tombs and tumuli in the Nigerian Sahara as early as 4700 BC and presumably much earlier in the Eastern Sahara clearly predates the construction of Egyptian mastabas and pyramids by a very long time. Such structures might have been the precursors. I didn't say it. This is what Fekri Hassan says in the book called Droughts, Food, and Culture. Such structures might have been the precursors, might have been. I'm not saying it is. Might have been the precursors of Egyptian pyramids and monumental architecture. It is noteworthy that tumuli appear in Egypt in several localities such as Nakada and Helwan during pre-dynastic times. I didn't say it. All right. The first emergence of ceramic production in summary. The discoveries at Unjugu in Mali and Open Earside in the Dogon country shed new light on the early Neolithic in Africa. The stratigraphic sequence and a cluster of absolute dates establish a terminus antiquum of 9400 Cal BC for ceramic sherds associated with a small bifacial lithic industry. The emergence of this type of technical complex corresponds to one of the wet phases of the Pleistocene and Holocene transition in West Africa. Most probably that of the climatic upturn at the beginning of the Holocene between 10,300 and 9,400 Cal BC. Paleoenvironmental results, particularly archaeobotanical, useful in this process. Ceramics emerged in sub-Saharan Africa and seem to have spread towards the Central Sahara during the early Holocene at the end of the 10th and the beginning of the 9th millennium Cal BC. While the desert zone became increasingly green, it has yet to be understood whether the Nile Valley was an important corridor for the diffusion of this technology or if ceramics appeared as a result of a second independent process of innovation. So basically, for those who don't know what that is saying, that technology, what they had at the Unjugu Valley, they found a similar technology in Nile Valley, Egypt. What I said earlier about the watermelon origin solved with molecular phylogenetics, including linear material, another example of museomics. Our study implies that sweet watermelon originates from the West, not Southern Africa, as previously believed, and that the South African citron melon has been independently domesticated. Watermelon seeds found in King Tut streams from West Africa. So it's right here. The illustration found in Egyptian tooth of watermelon served on a tray suggests that these fruits were eaten raw, perhaps as a dessert. Seeds found in ancient Egyptian tooth included that of King Tut, should ideally be studied using ancient DNA approaches. But it was from West Africa. Alternative watermelon seed may have been traded from West Africa to Northern Africa. Yep. I'm not making it up, family. I'm not anti-Egypt. I'm just giving you all the information. Iron smelting predates the Levant and Egypt and Niger, West Africa. In the Ear Mountain region of Niger, copper was independently smelted between 3000 BC and 2500 BC. The quality of the smelting process being used was not well developed, thereby indicating that it was not introduced into the Ear Mountain from an external source, such as the Nile Valley. By 1500 BC, the quality of the smelting process became more developed. This was what, 2022, the debate with Jabari. This was 4 years ago. It's 3.5 years ago. Oh man, Egypt invented Wi-Fi. Look, I said if Jabari presentation is not about the first century Christians or New Testament writers and the process of gathering information from Kemet, then this debate is a waste of time. What are the charges against Christianity? Christianity was stolen from ancient Kemet. The books of the New Testament. You gotta treat it like Law and Order and CSI and NCIS. What is Christianity? The fall of man, the Trinity, virgin birth, salvation by grace through faith, person Jesus Christ, birth, death, resurrection, and ascension, the second coming of Christ, the Antichrist. All these things are stolen from ancient Kemet. We have three ways of dealing with this matter. One, if we remove Kemet, would these ideas still be in Christianity? Two, did these ideas originate in Kemet? Three, you can't steal something if you're not the owner, if the person is not the owner. What exactly was stolen by Christianity? Jesus, the pyramid text, coffin text. Do we have copyright records? Did Kemet invent these ideas? Did these ideas originate in Kemet? Did John F. Kennedy exist? A Lincoln and Kennedy comparison. Truth is stronger than fiction. Lincoln and Kennedy comparison. Abraham Lincoln was elected to Congress in 1846. John F. Kennedy was elected to Congress in 1946. Abraham Lincoln was elected president in 1860. John F. Kennedy was elected president in 1960. Both were particularly concerned with civil rights. Both wives lost a child while living in the White House. Both presidents were shot on a Friday. Both presidents were shot in the head. Now it gets really weird. Lincoln's secretary was named Kennedy. Kennedy's secretary was named Lincoln. Both were assassinated by Southerners. Both were succeeded by Southerners named Johnson. Andrew Johnson, who succeeded Lincoln, was born in 1808. Lyndon Johnson, who succeeded Kennedy, was born in 1908. John Wilkes Booth, who assassinated Lincoln, was born in 1839. Lee Harvey Oswald, who assassinated Kennedy, was born in 1939. Both assassins were known by their three names. Both names are composed of 15 letters. Lincoln was shot at the theater named Ford. Kennedy was shot in a car called Lincoln, made by Ford. Booth and Oswald were assassinated before their trials. A week before Lincoln was shot, he was in Monroe, Maryland. A week before Kennedy was shot, he was with Marilyn Monroe. Lincoln was shot in a theater and the assassin ran to a warehouse. Kennedy was shot from a warehouse and the assassin ran to a theater. Does that mean that Lincoln didn't exist or Kennedy didn't exist because you find similarities? That's just pointing out how stupid the argument is. That's all that is. The parallel methodology. Locate the primary source with the rarest of exceptions. The primary sources, that is to say, the actual ancient texts that describe the practices, do not include any real parallels to the New Testament. 2, determine whether the supposed pagan parallel precedes or succeeds the New Testament. Every text in the New Testament was in circulation no later than the late 1st century AD. If the parallel is from a text that was written later than the 1st century AD, the New Testament writers obviously couldn't have borrowed their information from that text. Number 3, determine whether the supposed pagan parallel connects to the New Testament to a later Christian traditions. Connection between these practices and later patterns in Christian worship or holiday celebrations may be interesting, but these links have nothing to do with whether the New Testament accounts of the life of Jesus are historically accurate. Are the Egyptians the real kleptomaniacs? So this is Libya and how close it is to Egypt. Mummification, organ removal, grave goods, ostrich eggshells, rituals, petroglyphs, jackal head, cattle cult, cattle bones, pottery, ritual offerings, stone circle slaughter era, pottery and stone tools. Sahara was dry. The folks actually migrated to the Nile. Mummification before Egypt, 1,000 years before Kemet. You had mummification in Libya. 1,000 years. The child was embalmed, put in a fetal position, placed in a sack, antelope skin, internal organs removed, incisions, abdomen and thorax, organic preservative to stop decomposing, ostrich eggshell necklace around the neck, dated 1,000 years before Kemet. And that's in Libya. This is the rock art from Libya. You see elephants, giraffes, all type of things. Paleohydrology was able to show where the rivers were in the Sahara Desert. Pottery, animal dog head that we see in Kemet, cattle rock art, crocodile in the Sahara. Why? Because it was water there. It was once have liquid. More rock art, cows, animal, dogs, dog heads. They like to claim Mary is from Mary. Mary is from Mary. Mary is before many gods, like Mary, Amun, etc. It means beloved. I think that's a stupid argument that Jabbar used to always make. Mary means Mary. Actually, the word does come from Mary, to be honest, because the word is actually Miriam. Miriam comes from Mary, from Egypt. It's a loan word. That doesn't mean they stole the idea that's in the New Testament from there. The 10 Commandments come from the whatever. But we have the 10 Commandments in the Sharapic, instruction of Sharapic from 2600 BC. Parts of it, not the whole thing. Thou shalt not steal and all that stuff. The Sharapic instructions can be said to be the Sumerian forerunner of the 10 Commandments and some of the proverbs of the Bible. Do not curse with powerful meanings. Do not kill. Do not laugh with or sit alone in a chamber with a girl that is married. Do not steal or commit robbery, and do not spit out lies. Similar proverbs in the Bible. So the Sharapic is like the prerequisite before the 10 Commandments. The Code of Hammurabi, we could see that it influenced parts of the Bible in the Exodus chapter. If an ox gores, a man or a woman dies. If an ox gores, the same type of wording is used. A male slave or a female slave. If an ox is a habitual gorer, if a man's ox is a habitual gorer, they're using the same wordings that we have. The Eucharist, the Lord's Supper commemorates Jesus' last meal with his disciples. The wine is his blood. The bread is his body, right? We see it in John 6. We also see it in Exodus 16:15. Baptism. Where did baptism come from? Did it come from Egypt? The river water used as a judge in the Urnam or Sumerian code, where they would baptize you to decide if you live, that means you're innocent. If you die, that means you're guilty. So baptism, a form of baptism, has always been in the ancient Near East. Didn't have to come from Egypt. Didn't have to at all. Encyclopedia of Religion continues by pointing out that the word baptism means to plunge, to immerse, to wash. Baptism of repentance is known in many religious traditions of antiquity. For example, in the ritual of the Hittites, it was that 2 ablutions were performed in one ritual. First, the usual washing of the body with water, and then the subsequent washing off the spiritual dirt, cleansing from sins. The connection with Hittite rituals can be seen in particular in the call to meet God in the wilderness, which became a motto of the Essenes. The Hittites had a magical ritual of meeting God. God was asked to return home and bless his people. Paths were laid out for him, placing honey and other products so that it could attract him. In Zoroastrianism, water and fire are the 2 purest elements. So in Christianity, that kind of dual baptism takes place. Burst from water and spirit in water, ablution and immersion in fire as an image of receiving the gifts. Kings of kings and lords of lords. Do we find that in the ancient Near East? It's in the book of Enoch. So the writer of the Christian book may have taken it from First Enoch 9:4 and put it in Revelation 17. Again, intertestamental writing source, 1 Timothy 6:15 and 1 Enoch 9:4. Lord of the ages, Lord of lords, God of gods, King of kings. So the writers of the New Testament are not getting it from Egypt per se. If Egypt influenced intertestamental writers, that's a different argument, but there's no connection. Other cultures before Kemet, 2000 BC, talking about kings of kings, lords of lords. Encyclopedia of Religion and Ethics. Indus Valley, 1700 BC, talk about kings of kings. But I mean, these people like to talk about what's first and what's second and whatever. In the Akkadian chronology, you have kings of kings in the Sumerian culture, kings of the four corners of the world. These are idioms, kings of all peoples, kings of the universe, kings of kings, lord of lords. It's being used by different cultures. Intercultural relations between the South and the Southwest. Anybody want to jump on? Let me pin the link if anybody wants to jump on. You want to say something, Dan? Are you good?
No, I'm over here eating my breakfast. I didn't even eat yet. I just did that interview. Like, I just jumped into that.
Oh.
Yeah, like, and also, like, you know, I don't know when you plan on, you know, showing it, but like, we didn't even plan on this interview at all. Like, me and Garfield didn't talk about it or anything. Like, the interview just happened, basically.
Yeah, just because we have more ancient Egyptian texts than of other civilization doesn't mean that all other civilizations got their ideas from Egypt. Most ideas predate written records altogether, and Egypt will have borrowed from other cultures just as many ideas as other cultures borrowed from Egypt. So antiquity is not alone evidence of casual direction. You need something more than that. Cultural contact with Kemet, the Serek with Heru the elder, and Seti the first, and Set first and second dynasty. In Sumer, En as in Enki or Enlil means Lord. The title En written in cuneiform is a Sumerian word interpreted as meaning Lord or priest. To be an Lord was to occupy a position of power within the temple in the eyes of the gods of Sumer, which extended to authority. So the Uruk cylinder impression 3200, you see an En or Ensi feeding the sacred herd of Uruk. Baal means Lord. Assyrian called kings of kings around 1300 BC. Kemet has no direct influence of kings and lords of lords on the New Testament. Jesus' titles, Redeemer. For their Redeemer is strong, he will take up their case against you. So because they use the word Redeemer or bread of life, if Egypt used it, that don't mean they copied it from Egypt. Egypt invented the word bread. I mean, some of these arguments are crazy, man. Some of these arguments are so childish. Oh, they wrote only begotten son in Egypt, so they took it from Egypt and made it whatever. The Babylonian god Tammuz was hailed as the only begotten son of the god A. His mother was a virgin by the name of Ishtar. So you're saying Sumer, the Babylonian god Tammuz, they stole it from Egypt too? For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that whosoever believes in him should not perish but have everlasting life. So Shaka Amos, Jabari, you telling me they stole the term only begotten son when it's used in other cultures too? My beloved son. This is just so stupid. I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the ending. Thus says the Lord. That's it from Exodus, Isaiah. Everybody quotes that. Then they make the claim Kares means Christ. I heard Zionlex do this a couple years ago. Kares is the word for burial, but there's no evidence whatsoever to link this with the Greek title Christos or Hebrew Mashiach. Why are the earliest manuscripts found in Egypt? The Diatessaron, New Testament Gospels compiled as a single narrative by Tatian about 150 AD. It was a standard gospel text in the Syrian Middle East until about AD 400, when it was replaced by the four separated gospels. All right, so this is a conversation a lot of people like to have. Less than 10% of the population would have been able to read and write, and only the wealthy were likely to receive an education. Papyri show this wide range of literacy from people barely being able to write their own name to professional scribes writing swift and fluently to fine calligraphic hands that were used for the books of antiquity. People who did not know how to write entered into agreements by having somebody who could write sign contracts for them. You know, Egypt had kings as god, like Imhotep wasn't a king. Gilgamesh was considered a god. Naram Sin of Akkad was known as a god. The name Osiris, its origin. Modern scholars have made various attempts to explain the etymology of the name Osiris. The undeniable similarity of Osiris to the Mesopotamian Asar, the good god, has been pointed out. One of the designations of Osiris used for the Middle Kingdom was Wenefer, the good being. Wenefer was frequently used as a personal name during the Old Kingdom and continued to be popular. All right, I don't need to get into all of that. Real scholars. Horus was born of a virgin Isis Marian in December 25th in a cave manger, with his birth being announced by a star in the east and attended by 3 wise men. This is all hogwash. All hogwash. This is Dear Daddy. Gerald Massey, Kersey Graves, Tom Harper. This is Jabari's daddy. Right there. D.M. Murdoch, Alvin Boyd Kuhn, Joseph Maccabi. S means savior or Shulgi. This Seleucus, who was called Satur, reigned over Asia, being the son of Antiochus the Great, and da. Roman Caesars as savior. Julius Caesar was called a savior. Nero a savior. Vespasian a savior. The founder of the dynasty of Ur, the so-called Ur-Engar, never received divine honors, but his son and successor, the famous Dungi, who ruled 58 years, was elevated to the rank of a god in the early years of his reign. In Sumer, worship of dead kings was forbidden unless they had been deified while living. Evidently, some kind of consecration of the living mortal alone gave the possession of immortality. They identified their savior kings with the dying son of the weeping mother and believed them the divine redeemer sent to restore lost paradise. The reason why I put that clip from that article is because they would say that there were women who were weeping. The weeping mother was Isis, and the savior king was Heru. So I'm showing that this idea exists 2400 BC in Sumer. Ascension into heaven, we got it with Adapa. In Sumer, we have it with Enoch, Elijah, Romulus, Enmed, Deranki, Utnish Pashtim, Hercules, and Julius Caesar. The god-man Hercules died and ascended to heaven. Adapa, the Sumerian mythology, that's also about going into heaven. Enoch, Elijah, the origins of the ascension terminology. Ascension is often a reward for very righteous men who are taken by the god and thereby avoid having to go through death. Epic of Gilgamesh. Julius Caesar Roman Empire was deified after his death, just as Jesus would be in the next century, and proclaimed that the star was the soul of Julius Caesar having risen to heaven. The Senate proclaimed Julius Caesar God afterwards. New Testament time period. Roman historian Suetonius talks about people turning into a god or being worshipped. V's for virgin. V's for vision. They're not seeing right. You missed the writing of Isis in a dead man's penis. Has Isis hymen been checked? Let's ask T.I. Divine conception. Samson seems to be the product of a union between Manoach's wife and a visiting angel. The children of God are said to have been propagated with women and produced giants. When Eve names Cain, she explains his name by saying, I have created a man with Yahweh. Isaiah 7:14, if we look at it, it says, therefore the Lord himself shall give you a sign. Behold, the young woman shall conceive and bear a son and shall call his name Emmanuel. So once it gets to the Septuagint, then we start seeing different things. Where is Kemet in this conversation? There's no Kemet here. Behold, the virgin will be with child and will give birth. He's copying the Greek version of Isaiah 7:14. So how is Kemet in the picture? Kemet is nowhere in the picture. We shouldn't even be talking about Kemet. Damkina, aka Ninhursag, earth mother goddess of the moon, water, and earth and its fertility. She was a pure virgin. She who rests majestically with her consort in the absolute, she who sends forth, mother of the Danaans. All right. The original meaning of the term virgin, he thinks, was simply that of independence of the marriage tie, even in the case of such near relatives as sons. From these sources, therefore, Professor Shaheen derives two of the elements which enter into the Christian birth story: the title of the son, only begotten, and the virginity of the mother. To find the third, in some respects, the most important concept, that of redeemer and destroyer of the power of evil. Huitzilopochtli, born of a virgin in Mesoamerica. Did they get this from Kemet? Born of a virgin. What ancient text was used from Kemet? Concept, possible origins, culturally speaking, agriculture and farming, plant growing deities, which is universal. No one can say they started this. A vegetation deity is a nature deity whose disappearance and reappearance are life, death, and rebirth embodies the growth cycle of plants. In nature worship, the deity can be a god or goddess with the ability to regenerate itself. A vegetation deity is often a fertility deity. Resurrection, in yet another category of fertility myth, the disappearing god is the dying god whose resurrection signifies earthly life's natural cycle of birth, death, and regeneration. In Mesopotamian tradition, the fertility goddess Inanna journeys to the underworld, and while she's there, the earth becomes sterile when neither people nor animals are able to procreate. Inanna is slain after she confronts her sister Ereshkigal, the ruler of the underworld, but one of the gods contrives to send emissaries to revive her with life-restoring potions. The resurrected fertility goddess is then allowed to return to the upper world, but only on the condition that she chooses a substitute to assume her place in the realm of the dead. Thus, Inanna's husband, Dumuzi, a god of vegetation, is sent to the underworld for half of the year, while his sister Geshtinana serves as substitute for the other half. Dumuzi is therefore yet another example of the dying or disappearing god, for the earth's vegetation annually withers and dies during the months of his confinement in the land of the dead. So yeah, so in it has to do with vegetation and agriculture. That's where the god, the dying and rising deity system come from. Where did New Testament writers get their resurrection from? So this is saying they got it from Kemet. So Christians are reading the Old Testament, resurrection of the Messiah in the Old Testament, while there's a generally agreed upon theology of resurrection in the Old Testament. Connection between Psalm 16:10 and Psalm 22 and Isaiah 53 and Daniel 12 reveal that the Messiah particularly would be raised from the dead. So they didn't, the New Testament writers didn't need Kemet. They had the Old Testament that taught them this. So Jabari's best argument would have been to show where the Old Testament writers got it from, and that's a hard task. So this is why I said you have to show a continuity or show a provenance of where they got it from. If you're saying the New Testament or Christianity copied Kemet. The Pharisees, the predominant resurrection belief of first century Jews, based on the cumulative evidence we have from the Old Testament, New Testament, Josephus, Philadelphia, and other contemporary works such as the Apocrypha, Jubilee, the predominant belief of the first century Jews was, yes, those who died would be resurrected. This would be a bodily resurrection. This would happen to everyone, and only on the last, simultaneously and only on the last day. Sadducees did not believe in a bodily resurrection. First Corinthians first writing about Jesus' resurrection written in the 40s or 50s AD. Where did Paul get that concept from? This is where Jabari could have killed me. Paul is using Old Testament, not Kemet. 1 Corinthians 15:4, that he was buried and that he was raised on the third day according to scriptures. He's quoting Hosea 6:2. After 2 days, he will revive us. On the third day, he will restore that he may live in his presence. Paul again using Old Testament. 1 Corinthians 15:5, where, O death, is your victory? Where, death, is your sitting? He said, where is thy penalty, O death, O heads? Where is thy sting? So he's using the Old Testament resurrection. We have it in other cultures too. We have Xenophon of Ephesus. After nightfall, they came to the tomb, burst open the doors, came in and took away the fire, and saw that Anthea was still alive. We opened the tomb and found the corpse alive. Sheraton, Chereas, and Kalahori 3.4. That's written in the first century AD, around 50 AD. Paul's letters to churches. This is where Paul went, and who he's writing to is Kemet in the picture. He's writing to Rome, Thessalonica, Philippi, Colossus, Galatia, Ephesus, Corinth. He ain't got nothing to do with Kemet. He went to Arabia. He never went to Kemet. Without Kemet, would you have the concept of resurrection? Let's ask the Native Americans. Because the Native Americans got resurrection too. If Osiris did not exist, was it possible for Christians to know about resurrection? Plant-growing deities were worldwide, and vegetation deities are everywhere. Now look at the afterlife process of the Egyptians. Step by step, insert a hook through a hole near the nose and pull out part of the brain. Make a cut on the left side of the body near the tummy. Remove all internal organs. Let the internal organs dry. Place the lungs, intestines, stomach, and liver inside canopic jars. Place the heart back inside the body. Rinse inside of body with wine and spices. Cover the corpse with salt for 70 days. After 40 days, stuff the body with linen or sand to give it a more human shape. After the 70 days, wrap the body from head to toe in bandages. Place in a sarcophagus type of box like a coffin. Now, let me ask you all this. Where in Christianity do they follow the death protocol of Egypt? Where is that at? It don't exist. It don't exist at all. Mummification was mainly done to wealthy people, as poor people could not afford the process. Amulets. So I showed earlier Libya. In Libya, we're having people wear amulets to protect the person while they're in their dying situation. Field of reeds and way of that. There's no way Christianity was come from Egypt. There's no way. Look at all these things they did. The opening of the mouth ceremony. If we go by biblical tradition, Abraham, the Amorite, is from Mesopotamia. Inanna, the top deity from 4th millennium BC, before Abraham went to Egypt, he would already have known about resurrection from Inanna 3 days and 3 nights. Technically, if we want to be technical, he would have known about it before that. Jesus and Inanna, they both traveled to a big city. They both resurrected after 3 days. I won't get into that. I'm not saying anyone copied or stole anything, but if Christianity was to steal something, Inanna makes the most sense. Because Ainana is right there. There certainly was post-mortem judgment in Greco-Roman culture. Among the Greeks, Tartarus was the underworld realm of torment and suffering. The same word used in 2 Peter 2:4, according to Plato. He who has lived unjustly and impiously shall go to the house of vengeance and punishment, which is called Tartarus. In the myth of Plato elaborates. In the intermediate space, there were judges seated who commanded the just after they had been given judgment on them and had bound their sentences. Ainana and the 7 judges. The Anuna, the judges of the underworld, surrounded her. They passed judgment against her. The Erish Kigal fastened on Ainana the eye of death. She spoke against her the word of Ra. She uttered against her the cry of guilt. She struck her. Ainana was turned into a cow, the piece of rotten meat, and was hung from a hook on the wall. So the soldiers did these things, but standing by the cross of Jesus were his mother and his mother's sister, Mary the wife of Clopas and Mary Magdalene. When Jesus saw his mother and the disciple whom he loved standing nearby, he said to his mother, "Woman, behold your son." And he said to the disciple, "Behold your mother." And from that hour, the disciple took her to his own home. Adad is our shepherd. Lord is my shepherd. 42 negative confessions. Has he committed a sin against a god or against a goddess? Has he done violence to one older than himself? Has he used false scales? Has he accepted a wrong mark? Has he set up a false landmark? Has he broken into a neighbor's house? This is not the 42 negative confessions. This is some confessions in the Sumerian culture that I actually found. The worshippers of Serapis are called Christians, and those who are devoted to the god Serapis call themselves bishops of Christ. I don't know if people know this, but this is from the Historia Augusta, which is considered a forgery. Themselves bishops of Christ. What's up? Turn off your background and go ahead, bro. The floor is yours.
You talking to me, Garfield?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. You can go ahead.
Yeah, I was wondering, Garfield, are you familiar? And peace to you, brother, and peace to you. I'm enjoying the show. I was wondering, are you familiar with the similarities with the Greek myth of Agamemnon and the Greek myth of Abraham and Isaac, the sacrificial son?
I read something in the what's this guy's name? Not Russell Gemerkin. I forgot what the guy's name is right now. I used him in my book. He talked about the similarities with Abraham. I'm not too familiar with the story 100% though.
Yeah. Well, if you don't mind, I could
Go ahead.
I could read off. Yeah, here's a clear side-by-side comparison of the Agamemnon myth from Greek tradition and the Abraham-Isaac story from the Hebrew Bible. They look strikingly similar on the surface, a father told to sacrifice his child, but they point in very different moral and cultural directions. Agamemnon, Greek myth. Source, Greek myth cycle around the Trojan War. Example, Iphigenia at Aulis, King Agamemnon and the child Iphigenia. Core story, Agamemnon offends the goddess Artemis. She stops the winds, trapping the Greek fleet. To appease her, he must sacrifice his daughter. In many versions, he goes through with it. In some, Artemis substitutes a deer. In some, Artemis substitutes a deer at the last moment. Outcome, the act destroys his family. His wife, Clytemnestra, later murders him. And it goes into further into the comparisons. But that's where the comparison is important for me, is the idea of the sacrificial child and then being replaced by a deer in the Greek, but in a ram in the biblical story. And I just wanted to know if you were familiar with that. I know that there are some issues when comparing Greek and the Hebrew, perhaps I'm not sure if it's a chronological issue, but I just wanted to know if you had any insight on that for me.
Nah, I'm not on that right now.
Okay. All right, brother. Well, I'm enjoying the show, and I'll just continue listening.
All right, cool. Jeremiah, Yehuda, with Ben, Yakanan, 3105. Jump on the panel if you got beef. Yo, Garfield, what's your content today? I have a few minutes. I don't want to waste no time on a topic I'm not on. What topic are you on? I'll be on your topic. Because I want all the smoke today. All the smoke. Any topic you want to talk about? Who's your son, usual? Jeremiah, that's you?
Yeah, hold on. What? Am I echoing?
Nope.
So what you want today, Garfield?
What you want to talk about?
Whatever you want.
What do you claim?
I don't have a particular topic. Claim as far as what? My faith or what I believe in.
You claim you're a bloodline Israelite? That's what you claim?
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Okay, so let's talk about that.
Okay. So the children of Israel, everybody know about West Africa and all that good stuff, man.
What about West Africa? What about West Africa?
So the modern tradition, us being taken into captivity and brought over here in boats, that proves we the children of Israel. But I have a slight different take. I still believe.
I don't accept that. I think that's false. I don't accept that. You accept that because it lines up with your belief. Because let me ask you this. Let me ask you a question before we get into anything. First of all, I was born in Jamaica, right? I grew up as a Christian, dabbled with a little Rastafarianism, whatever. The Rastafarians, they teach that they're the only 12 tribes. One of the groups teach they're the only 12 tribes of Israel. Nobody else is a part of Israel except them. And they base that off of oral tradition and what they grew up in. All right? Now, I don't accept that at all. I think they're idiots and they're nuts. That's what I believe, right? Now, I was born in Jamaica. I grew up in New York. After I left high school and all that stuff in Jamaica, went to school in Jamaica, I came up here. Now, I've been in America. Since I've been in America, I've learned about the Nuwapians. I actually joined the Nation of Islam at one point. I've been in the slave theater. I knew about Dr. Ben, Dr. Clark, saw them personally. I bodyguard Khalid Abdul Muhammad. I bodyguard Farrakhan. I used to work on movie sets with Spike Lee. I've been around.
Yeah, I'm familiar with
you. On the street. Then I heard about the Hebrew Israelites. So now, since 2012, I've been studying the Black Hebrew Israelite movement, right? That's all I've been focused on. And I'm trying to study them inside out. The last 3-4 years, I've gotten deeper into One West teachings and what they believe in. King James is black. Why they believe this. Why they believe that Europe was dark ages and black people rule and why people lie about it. Why they believe all of that stuff. So that's where my studies is in mostly. But what are you claiming now? Now that I've told you about me, what are you claiming?
So I partially believe that those who came over on the slave ships were descendants of the children of Israel. Okay, but my thing is this though. I believe that a lot of us came over here during the what's the movement called? Basically when everybody was fleeing from West Europe and North Africa, Christopher Columbus and all them, you know, I believe that those were the majority of the children of Israel, not claiming a particular tribe. I don't come from one West background.
Hold on,
I actually,
bro. Hold on. Rewind a little bit. You think most of us came over during the time of Columbus?
yes.
Come where?
Yes, when you read the word,
Where are we coming from?
you know, some of us came from, you know, France. Some came from Ireland. Some of us came from Morocco. You know, all these different places in West Europe where the Yehudim were dispersed to. Okay, and so my take is that the Moriscos, or the quote unquote crypto Jews, when you read the works of the Jewish pirates of the Caribbean, they speaks about these Sephardi Jews and how it was so many Jews over here in the West Indies. When the Inquisition came, all of a sudden these Jews disappeared. So the question.
One point of clarification. Do you
say it again?
Do you have records of Sephardic Jews coming over here to the West as slaves?
No, not as slaves. See, okay. Deuteronomy 28, Deuteronomy 28:68 does not say that you will be sold. It says that you will sell yourselves. And so when we examine the kingdoms that arose in West Africa, and you know, during these times, I do believe that these were the descendants of the children of Israel, specifically the children that came from out of the southern kingdom, out of Judea. I don't believe that the 12 tribes, or excuse me, the 10 tribes were dispersed strictly to Assyria. No, the record shows biblically that those out of the 10 tribes, the 9 tribes, a lot of them fled into the southern kingdom. And during the time of Xerxes, or the time of Esther, the tribes that were in the Syria and all the northern regions, a lot of them went to Judea. So yeah, I don't have the stance that the slave ships is.
I'm gonna take you out the one West box, right? I'm gonna ask you this.
Okay. All right.
You think? Let me get it right. Let's deal with one tribe at a time. You believe that some of the tribes, or some of the people that live in ancient Israel around in the 8th century, were taken to Assyria, and some were taken to Persia. Am I correct?
Correct.
All right. So now that we know that, you're saying a lot of them also went from the northern kingdom to the southern kingdom. Am I correct?
Correct.
All right. Now, in 2 Kings 18 verses 13, it says Sennacherib came to Judah, to all the guarded towns, and took them. That's what it says in the Bible. In history, it also says he took 200,000 people from Judea. So now those people in Judah, the majority of the people in Judah were taken, and they took what's called, I spoke about this last week, Shephalah. They control that area. He gave it to the Philistines or whatever, right? He gave them the town, the city rulers, 3 different rulers. He gave them that town, and they had different deities worship in that area and so forth, right? Now, those people that he took to Assyria, where did those people go? Yeah, I mean, they went to Assyria, of course, to Nineveh and all that stuff, right? Now, the question is, when did those specifically 200,000 or 90% or 50% or 60% of Judah, when did they come back to Israel or to Judah?
So that would be during the time of
Nebuchadnezzar,
Cyrus. Cyrus. Okay, when he made the declaration of all the peoples who was in the land, the region, they could go back to their homeland, and is specifically we know in the scriptures in the Tanakh that Nehemiah and Ezra were given the task to go back and rebuild the temple, the second temple.
All right, stop for 1 second. First of all, Cyrus never said everybody could go back to their kingdom. That's not true. The Bible says, you want to say what the Bible says, that the people that he took, or what Nebuchadnezzar took, they had the opportunity to come back. That's what the Bible says. What Cyrus says is totally different. Cyrus said that the people that were removed, because I don't know if you know why the writers in Babylon, why they put that Cyrus was a Messiah, and why the Bible says that Cyrus was a Messiah, is because Cyrus, they had removed Marduk as a deity, right, in Babylon, right? The people who was ruling Babylon, Nabonidus, he had removed Marduk. So the whole thing about Cyrus cylinder is something against Nabonidus. I'm gonna show you the screen. I don't know if you could look. Hold on 1 second. Just give me a second. Let me just do this real quickly. I
don't or doubt that. I understand that fully, because in historical artifacts show that this decree was declared by the king in that time, that those who were there that can return home. And so we see in the scriptures where Ezra and Nehemiah, or more specifically, Nehemiah was given the task to take the people back to the homeland and rebuild the temple.
All right, now look at this right here. I want you to look at this article right here. This is a Wikipedia article, right? You could take it for what it is, because I want to be quick. It's actually my book, right? But this I want you to look from this right here. This is the return of exiles from Babylon. Because I don't know if, are you familiar with the Al-Yehuda tablets?
Yes.
Right. Now the Al-Yehuda tablets, what does it say regarding the people that's living there? What does it say? The 200 tablets. What is it saying? What is it essentially talking about?
Well, like I said, again, the people in the region, okay, they can return home.
Okay,
that's the declaration.
I want you to look at the screen real quick, right? I want you to look at the screen. You talk about the return back and the Cyrus cylinder and all that stuff, right? Now, it says right here at the bottom, Professor Lester Grab asserted that the alleged decree of Cyrus regarding Judah cannot be considered authentic, but that there was a general policy of allowing deportees to return. He also stated that archaeology suggests that the return was a trickle taking place over decades rather than a single event. All right, now that's what he said. The reality is, when you read the Al-Yehuda tablets, those people, they never returned. Those are people who Nebuchadnezzar, this is why I asked if you read the tablets, because those tablets tell you that Nebuchadnezzar offered those people income producing land. So those people was to help Nebuchadnezzar to build up his kingdom, not the people who were acting up when Zedekiah or whoever that name of that king was, who said, I'm not going to be under you no more. And that's why he actually destroyed the temple. Not those people who he took back to by the rivers of Babylon. Not those people. I'm talking about the people that actually went to work in his country as like the equivalent to a congressman or a senator. Those people continued to live in the land of Babylon. So that's where in the Babylonian community. But the people that returned to Judah didn't include the people that left under Sennacherib in 701 under Hezekiah. Those people lived in Nineveh and some other areas. Those people never returned. Those people are lost too. So those would be considered the lost tribes of Judah. So they didn't return under Babylon because those people specifically stayed in Nineveh and whatever. They stayed. And they even have records of them changing their name to Assyrian names. So we have those records. What I'm saying to you is those 90% that left Judah under 701 BC never returned. There's no records of them coming back. The people that came back under Cyrus, go ahead. Let me let you talk. Go ahead.
I was going to say that would be false because if we talk about Nebuchadnezzar, that was never a thing. The southern kingdom, or those who was taken by Nebuchadnezzar, that was 550 BC. The people stayed there for 70 years.
586 BC. That's when the temple fell. But he took people from before that, though. Remember, he came 3 different times. So he came and recruited people. Remember, he recruited people. That's not in the Bible. That's in the tablets that the Jews themselves wrote. That's why I asked you if you know about the Al-Yehuda tablets, because in those tablets, Nebuchadnezzar is recruiting them to come and help him build his temple or build up his empire, because they were smart. There were some intelligent people.
Right. So that would give credence to the book of Daniel, what they was doing when Nebuchadnezzar, the actual king Nebuchadnezzar, or Nabonidus, whichever, came in. So that gave credence to that.
Can you see the screen? Can you see the screen? I want you to read something carefully right here. Look at this right here. I want you to read this. This is from a Wikipedia article, right? Take it for what it's worth. Look at what it says right here. Babylonian texts, archaeological evidence, and population estimates suggest that only a small group of exiles, likely around what? 4,000, returned to Judah over several decades, contrary to the figure of 42,000 listed in Ezra 2. That's a concise history of ancient Israel from the beginning through the Hellenistic era. That's from my Leslie Michael Eisenbraun. I'm saying to you, there's no records of anybody going back. There be nice. There's no records. I have not seen. As a matter of fact, in the Al-Yehuda tablets, and I could show you in my slides. Hold on one second. Let me get this right here. I could show you my slides. There was 2 people that asked to go back to Zion, because Zion is Jerusalem. So there's only 2.
Exactly.
There's only 2 people in history that asked to go back there in the records from the Al-Yehuda tablets. 2 people, bro. 2.
Okay, so
people in the Al-Yehuda tablets. Let me just make it clear. Those are free people who own slaves themselves in Babylon, who is living freely, not the people that he took by the rivers.
I got your book, Garfield. I already got your book. So look, I'm gonna put a pin in it right here. And the next time you're on, I'm gonna be listening because I gotta hit the road.
I didn't write about it. Well, actually, yeah, it's right here. Al-Yehuda. It's in my book. This is a clip from the book. No, it is. Yeah. I got your book. If you read the part that I talk about the lost tribes of Judah, you'll see that I talked about the source says that 90% of Judah was gone. But if you remember, Al-Yehuda tablets reveal life of the Babylonian. Hold on, am I sharing this? Hold on, I'm not sharing this. My bad. I don't want to talk and don't show a source. If you look at this right here, family, I've showed this a lot. The Al-Yehuda tablets reveal life of the exiles in Babylon. It teaches us that we weren't slaves like we were slaves to the Pharaoh. It teaches us that we were simply free people living in Babylon. This is not Garfield making up some stuff with his own sources. This is what the Al-Yehuda tablets is. As a matter of fact, I have it right here in front of me. I could put it on the screen. I could show you all the actual book to be upfront with everybody so that they could see the book themselves and I'm not bullshitting. Hold on a second. Let me show the actual book. Let me show
Garfield, man, appreciate you letting me up. I got to run. I'm still listening in, though.
All right, cool.
All right, peace, bro.
Peace. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the book right here. I bought this in 2005 or 2015, I think. When did it come out? 2015? In my mindset of conspiracy thinking, I'm saying that Saddam Hussein, they invaded Iraq because the Jews were mad that they didn't want him to dig up. He had this information. This was crucial. When did this come out? 2014. Yeah, I bought this 2014 or 2015. Was worth every dime. This is the price. This is what Rawbon always said. Garfield, this is all you need to bring out to defeat the Hebrew Israelites. Because the red book, that red book points out. This is what it points out. Let me show y'all right now. It points out the Al-Yehuda tablets. Why is it called Al-Yehuda, by the way? Because Al-Yehuda means Judah town. Ladies and gentlemen, what better evidence do you need than Judah town? Listen to me carefully. Now, if you look at this, it teaches us that we weren't slaves like we were slaves to the Pharaoh. It teaches us that we were simply free people in Babylon, living not only in Al-Yehuda, but also in a dozen other cities where Jews either lived or did their business. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is serious because these are actual Jews who are writing this. Look at what it says right here now. The Al-Yehuda tablets dated to the 6th and the 5th century BC are a collection of about 200 clay tablets on the exiled Judeans living in Babylon. The tablets are named after the central settlement mentioned in the documents, Al-Yehuda. The new documents provided us for the first time with insight into the social and economic life of Judeans in their own Babylonian community and their interrelationships. On the tablets, look on the tablets now, look at what it says now. Names of places listed on the tablets. Look at it, look what it says. Judah town, town of Tobyama, Adebelo, Kes, Nassar, town of Amuru, Bit Naisu, Bit Cinco, Kingstown. So they got Jamaicans there. Babylon, Kingstown of the New Bafif, Bit Hama. These are Jews, legitimate Jews writing of their life. They owned slaves. They had wills, showing wills how they leave in their slaves, land and money and all this stuff. Come on. This is a primary source. Now, this is not the people that Nebuchadnezzar shipped out because they was being bad. This is a different set of people. The Al-Yehuda tablets relates to activities of those who remained in Babylonia, tilled the land, and built houses by virtue of their status as settlers on royal land. They were explicitly protected from being turned into chattel slaves. The term Sosano designates proprietors of bowlands who held grants of income-producing property. Whether Nebuchadnezzar forced or encouraged Judeans to come with him to live in Babylon to help in expanding his kingdom is not clear. What is clear, the Judeans were not slaves. The tablets describe details such as trade transactions, home sales, addresses, inheritance, and other various agreements are etched on these stone tablets. And each tablet is also inscribed with the transaction date. Dating the tablets were easy. Each tablet had a day, month, and year of ruling king. Earliest date was 572 BCE. Latest date was 477 BCE. Within the 200 tablets, we have two examples of folks talking about returning to Judah, Sidor and Yaeli. See, I'm not lying. Judeans seem to be comfortable and even in some cases own slaves themselves. Judeans were royal merchants. We see this with members of the Ari family, most of whom bear distinctly Babylonian names. Oh man, Garfield is killing it today. I'm killing it today. Who want the smoke? I'm killing it today. I'm killing it today. Who want the smoke? I'm killing it today. Now, vines intertwined. What happened is they had the Morasha archives before they had the Al-Yehuda tablets. So now what happened is now, this is a continuation. So the people who lived in Babylon and had the 13 towns that they lived in, guess what happened? We find in the Al-Yehuda tablets, later on during the time of Ezra and Nehemiah, they now have 30 villages, no longer 13. So you see, they have the Morasha archive, which is 800 cuneiform tablets or fragments that preserve financial records of what may be called an ancient banking firm of the Morasha family. The records date from 454 to 404, hence the reigns of Artaxerxes I and Darius II, and deal with members of the royal families, small landowners, and numerous lesser individuals. Among the lesser individuals are many personal names that appear to be of Jewish extraction. About 80 individuals such as Haggai, and Shabbatai. From the details of their transactions, we learn that Jews lived in about what? 30 villages around the ancient Babylonian city of Nippur. Some served as soldiers and minor custom officials, while others were farmers, merchants, or slaves. They gave their children Babylonian names, but these offspring in turn revert to naming their children with Jewish names in the third generation. These Jews blended into the acculturation of the empire, along with many other minorities, yet retained at least one hallmark of their religion: Sabbath observance. According to the records, they rarely conducted business on the Sabbath. What they are otherwise undistinguished from the rest of the population. Is against this background of striving for religious identity and cultural assimilation that the stories of Daniel and his friends became the model of keeping dietary laws and praying 3 times a day. Damn. The Talmudic communities in Iraq See? Pombedata, Surah. Pombedita and Surah. See, if you don't know this history, man, it locks you out. It locks you out from understanding this whole thing about Judah. The issue that I have with the guy, my brother that was on a while ago, claiming that Judah is X, Y, and Z. You got to be careful because you got to know where Judah went. So when we say the 10 tribes are lost, which they technically weren't, we have to say Judah was lost because Judah, he said he took over 200,000. That's 5 times the amount that the Assyrians said they took for the northern kingdom. So where is Judah? Where did they come back? When? You can't say under Cyrus because Cyrus is addressing, if you do it biblically, the ones that Nebuchadnezzar took. You can't say those people because what the Sennacherib took is so what Sennacherib took. Different people. What's on your mind, King J?
I was just going to build on exactly what we're kind of talking about right now, but it was in regards to their status, right? The Shushanu was the term that they were called. And that's just the social status. Basically, in order they were given land and they had to work the land, and requirements were basically working their army, things like that. It was land granted by the king in exchange for taxes and basically military service. Yeah.
Yep. Good point. Good point. Break it down, brother. I appreciate that. Brother Law, what's up, Brother Law? I just put on a slide about Islam and you jump on. Look at that. Magic and divination in early Islam. What's up, brother?
First and foremost, peace and blessings to everybody that's on the chat.
Peace, peace.
As well as your brothers and your families. I was actually jumping on just to ask the title for the name of the book. I put it several times in the chat, but I was hoping somebody in the chat.
Which one of the books you talking about? You talking about this one right here? Hold on, let me show you. You talking about the red book that I put up?
Yes, sir.
That book is called Documents of Judean Exiles and West Semites in Babylon, in the collection of David Suffer. And I actually interviewed the lady that's one of the co-writers on my first 20 for 20. I had to wake up 5 o'clock in the morning to interview her. She's in Germany. So you could check that interview out. All right.
Thank you. That's all I needed.
Yeah, her name is what's her name again? Carolyn Wench. She's a translator. She reads the Babylonian language pretty well.
Okay. Well, I'll stay on for a tad bit before I jump off and hear some of the things you're about to present in regards to Islam. I'll stay on.
Oh, okay. Oh, you're a troublemaker, man. Look at you, a troublemaker. Before I do that, there's something I wanted to touch on. What's his name? There's something I wanted to touch on in the chat. Hold on. They're obsessed with this Ashkenazi Khazarian nonsense. Oh, the reason why I actually have this up is because magic and divination in early Islam, right? So what happened is cleromancy. So when we talk about the Roman practice of lot casting and all that stuff, lot casting is in the ancient Near East. I'm not arguing that. What happened is sometimes you'll find some stuff in African culture that Islam brought, but we think it's the Hebrew culture that brought it in. So we'll see some words that are Hebrew in Arabic or come from Aramaic, and it's from Arabic because of there's a connection between Islam or Muslims or Arabs being in West and Central Africa. And we take it. So this one of the practices, cleromancy. I'm not saying cleromancy comes from the ancient Near East to West Africa, but I'm just pointing out that it's a possibility that because of them being in the area and doing stuff, it could have been passed on to Africans. Just like how the Arabic influence through Islam influenced the Dogon culture. A lot of people might not know that. If you listen to the dialogue between Wesley Muhammad and Asari Motep, he had to admit that Wesley Muhammad was correct on some things influencing the West African culture because it's a reality. You know, when the West African culture says, hey, we come from Arabia or Medina or Mecca, that's Arabic influence. Ain't none of them West Africans know about no Mecca or nothing until Islam got there. It's just a reality. But if because they are the ones in charge and you look at them as being better than you, you're going to say, hey, I'm from the areas where they're from. You know what I'm saying? It's like somebody in Jamaica, most Jamaicans you ask, they say they come from Kingston because it's the most developed area in the country. So even if they come from another parish or a state, they're not going to say they come from St. Thomas. Because St. Thomas, they say they work all Obia in St. Thomas. That's all they do in St. Thomas is work Obia. So nobody want to say they come from St. Thomas. So they say, hey, I'm from Kingston, although they're from St. Thomas. So it's the same thing with the West Africans. They want to say, hey, I'm not from here in West Africa. I'm from Arabia. I'm from Yemen. I'm from Medina, Mecca. I'm from Arabia. So that's why you see all of that all over the West African culture. It's all about legitimizing your history and your background. All right. So that's what
Okay,
I was.
now, Garfield, are we speaking about the actual language of Arabia, or are we speaking about about Islam itself?
As far as what?
In regards to what you were just having in a conversation about, because you were defining it as Islam. But the titling or the name for Islam didn't come into existence until after the Prophet Muhammad. So were you talking about the land of Fitra before the Prophet Muhammad?
No, after Prophet Muhammad.
Okay, so now we are talking about Islam. Okay. I just wanted to get clarity because I wasn't sure if you were talking about actual Islam itself as a whole, as a religion, or we speaking about Arabia and Arabic itself, because there is a difference between the Arabic language and Arabia Fusha. It's a big difference.
I got you. What's up, Johnny? What type of trouble you causing today, man?
No, I just wanted to actually ask biblical one question, if I could. Yafa, Bashekit.
Who you want to talk? And biblical DNA?
Yeah. Bashekit.
No, I'm Bashekit.
I'm talking to Yafa. I'm talking to my dog, brother. With this, I've gotten a lot of hits from the Ali Akbar study or whatever.
Oh yeah, what's up?
So and it's all coming at Sarmatian and Scythian. So
what sample for this? There's 13.
There's a couple of 13s and 14s. I'm not looking at it right now, but as far as which they are.
Hey, just hit me up and we can do a personal chat. This because Garfield's doing this. Let's hit me up and we can do a Zoom and stuff like that.
No, but I can make it relevant to the conversation.
Okay.
Just real quick, this is going to throw trace DNA that people are going to use for Khazarian theory still, but it's showing that people 30,000 years ago just moved down to the Levant from the higher area, from the Scythians and stuff like that, correct?
I mean, no, there was a group of Scythians that settled in Scythopolis. I don't know, I forget the Hebrew name. I got to be looking at it. Give me a second. You know what I'm talking about, Scythopolis? It was an ancient Israelite city. It turned into this. Okay. Because most people, so it's
where we got weed from.
Beth Shain is called Beth Shain.
Yeah.
But it was basically
from.
It's something like I wanted to get into it, but our time was limited with Iran. But
he's crazy, but it doesn't matter.
I mean, I think he has a lot of stuff. I like some stuff. I don't agree with the whole biblical stuff with the Khazar situation and his biblical concept, because
I wasn't on earlier. If you guys did it earlier, I don't know when the interview was.
No, it was in private.
Yeah, it was in private. But basically, he's saying that there's a frequency amongst the Israelites that it can be traced even all the way back to like 6,000 BC or 6,000 years ago.
This is what I'm saying. That's what I'm wondering where these hits are coming up. And even the Mitanni moved down from that area too. So I'm Garfield. I realize
6,000 BC. There are no those such things in the people in that area during that time period.
Yeah, I know exactly. But he's saying there's a frequency amongst these populations that he can say are Israelite or not. So he's saying that even the Israelites carry these frequencies. It's not a haplogroup. I don't know if it's a variant. I don't know if it's like a specific like gene that they carry. I don't know what it is. It's something that he can't say. That's something that Israel Finkelstein knows, that they know about, that they cannot share.
What's the name of it? He can't say the name.
Yeah, he can't say the name. So he can.
He made that shit up. I don't care what nobody say. He made that shit up.
I don't know.
Maybe the paper hasn't been put out. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
But I didn't mean to get us off track or anything like that. But I was that question just hit me.
No, because there's a gene, like there's Greek, Southern European Scythian samples, and those samples, I would say for sure that there's some noise that Ashkenazi Jews definitely closer.
I thought that was. I used to think that was from the Balkans, You share
Yeah.
DNA from the Balkans, but
Yeah.
these new studies are showing. I'm like, fuck, maybe that we're that old.
Give me a second.
You can go farther back. You go ahead.
Yeah, give me the samples, IDs. That's what I'm saying. It's better this so I can see it.
I'll
so
put
I
them
can
in the
see
back
what you're
chat.
talking about.
I'll look on FTDNA.
Are
and then
any
send
of
them
you
out.
guys familiar with the Gazulian?
I'll drop off now.
No, hey, hold on 1 second, bro.
Gazulian is the Chalcolithic Levant. So he's even
Exactly. So that's what I'm
yeah.
saying. That's the dominant culture in that area. And Palestine, Israel was that Gazulian culture.
Question, everybody who's on stage, Brother Law, everybody included. Why are these guys in England called Black Tom? Both of them are called Black Tom. Why?
Either they did something wrong or because they're a swarthy look.
Yeah, they could have dark eyes, dark hair, and so therefore they have
all right. So
why
they call King Charles Black Boy? Now Charles II. Why they call him Black Boy and why they call these two guys Black Tom?
I have no idea.
Okay. The reason is because of their dark hair. That's one of the reasons why. This is England. We never grew up in England. We don't know the culture. But we see the word black and we automatically, because we grew up in this world right here, from these people over here. So we automatically think black, we think of the black man or somebody who's African American or African background. But in England and Scotland and Ireland, I'm going through their dictionaries, and the word black has many meanings. Just like the word gray was used to mean pale in the Middle Scottish dictionary. That is weird. But if somebody says, I'm saying this is the 16th century, right? Black Tom, both of them called Black Tom. One has black hair, dark hair, and King Charles II is called Black Boy. Even on his wanted photos, he had long black hair and he was 6'2".
Yeah,
we're looking for a black boy.
Mm-hmm. There's a quote by his mother, Queen Maria, that says, "He is so dark, I am ashamed of him."
Yeah, but in what context though?
Well, as far as being white, she said, as far as like his, I think it was the Stuarts are generally normally like lighter complected.
You look at
and
John.
It was a Stuart. It was a
Stuart.
Stuart.
Yeah.
Look at John, this picture, right here. I'm gonna enlarge this. Johnny, although he's whatever color is in England, he always is dad. That's your dad, Johnny?
Uncle.
That's your uncle. Your uncle is lighter than you, right? In England, right? When you see somebody of a light complexion that's super light, they call them pale. Like I have quotes where King James is called pale. So pale back then would mean you're white. You're super white.
Weiser means whitey. It was, I think, making fun of our hair.
Hey, you know my last name is Reed, right? And it actually comes from the word red. I didn't know that until I started studying this stuff. It comes from the word red, but over here in the West, it's called Reed, which is really red. Very interesting. So studying this Ireland stuff, I don't think anybody has done what I've done. I don't think anybody in the community care. That's why One West has survived so long to teach his foolishness that King James is black, because they don't know what they're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not to disrespect them, but again, why are they calling these guys, what do you call it, Black Tom? It's a nickname.
Mm-hmm.
So Black Boy is a nickname for Charles II. Not that he's black. And then the quotes with his mom, I don't know if we have any primaries for that. Those are some hearsay stuff. You know? But the thing is, though, she said, the quote also said she's not going to take him outside until he gets lighter. So what is she going to bleach him?
A little fair.
Use the African bleaching cream? Like, yo.
Yeah. So let's just say it. Swarthy means olive colored complexion, not black.
No, the word swarthy is never used for black people. The word for black people is in England. I could only speak for England. Is Ethiopian, Negro meaning that you were actually a slave, come off the transatlantic slave trade. So you're a black person who come from the slave trade. They use blackamoor. That's what they use. Blackamoor, Ethiopian, and Negro. So now King James called blackamoor, Negro, or Ethiopian? No. Why is he making a play with his wife putting on blackface? Why is she putting on blackface if she's black? You see, these are the simple things. Why they calling him white at his funeral? Because remember, they're saying that he's King Solomon reincarnated. So now they're saying that they quoted Solomon 5:10, which calls Solomon in English white and ruddy. We know it doesn't mean white in the Hebrew as far as the language. As far as the Hebrew language, it doesn't really mean white as far as how we look at it today. But in England, they're calling him white for a reason. They're saying how 16 things that you're similar to King Solomon. You're white. They're calling him white the whole time. I've quotes for days. They're calling him pale, white complexion. I got quotes for days. But the thing is, I don't find any quotes where they're calling him swarthy or Negro. There was a satire that they did where they call him swarthy or Negro or something like that. But they were just being satirical about something that he did. But come on now. There's nothing there that's saying that this guy Black Tom. Why they calling him Black Tom? This must put something in your head to say, what am I thinking? But let me talk to Haj online. Haj online, are you willing to come on stage? Because I don't do the back and forth in the chat. That's some coward shit. I ain't got time for that. I don't go in people's chat on YouTube and argue with them. I don't do that unless I'm going on the stage. I don't do that. But calling him Black Tom, come tell me why they call this guy Black Tom, since you know more than I do. I would love to know. And this kills their whole argument. They can't prove for 800 years that black people ruled Europe. You might can show more in Spain, but you can't show no black people ruling France, ruling Germany, ruling Yugoslavia, Serbia. You know what Europe is? What is Europe? So many countries. Black people ruling and they're covering it up. Haj online, jump on, man. Jump on, man. Jump on, brother.
But I would be hesitant on that more thing too, because even North Africans were considered to be dark compared to Europeans. So
they call him blackamoor, so they call him that for a purpose.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you what they call black people in England. That's all I'm telling you. Because and then how I verify it is I look at how they do population numbers, because there was no census. So what they do is they talk about they go by the counts of how many black folks are mentioned in the records. That's what they go by to check how many. I don't think 1,000 black people lived in England during King James time. I don't think so. I don't think they have 1,000. And that's the crazy part about it. And then another thing to the whitewashing don't mean what whitewashing mean today. So when they whitewash in England in the 1500s with King Henry VIII and Thomas Cromwell, it's not the same whitewashing, because what they did was paint over with a lime stuff, right? And when they painted over, when they scrub them off today, you could see the original pictures that's underneath. And let me ask y'all a question. Do you think the people that were underneath were black? Yo, I can't wait to do this Priest Daniel debate, yo. I want y'all to see this information. Y'all gonna laugh. Y'all gonna laugh, man. They actually have over 25,000 documents from the 16th century that they quote unquote destroyed or whitewashed. And whitewash is just them painting over it. That's all they're doing with white paint, lime paint. That's all they're doing. So when you rub off the lime paint now, you take a look, you're gonna see what it is. And that's clear. What are they gonna say? It's fake, they're hiding the truth. It's craziness. That's crazy. The Chatter King, do you want to come on stage? You see, 12 tribes will come on stage. I ain't worried about him. He spew nonsense all day in the chat. I don't care about him.
Do you need me to drop down, Garfield?
No, you're good.
So
You're
somebody
good,
else
bro. You're good, bro.
Okay.
You're good.
Okay.
I just wanted to bring out this point about this guy. We're just talking about random stuff. Anybody want to come on and debate, we could debate. Hey, brother, have you been able to find information to show that Mecca existed before the 4th century AD?
I'm actually putting something together as we speak.
All
I
right.
actually have to go back to the museum to actually with Reg. I was actually going to go today, but wasn't able to. But there's some things that I saw that I wanted to show forth to him as well. That's actually in the Meadow Nature that I was having a little issue or problem with reading. So I just wanted to get some insight with him from it. But hopefully next week, when I go back, inshallah, I'll have it. So I can go more so in depth. And there's some other documents I've been reading through as well. So as we speak, I'm putting something together as we speak.
That's what's up.
Hey Johnny, those are eyes, not ones, bro. So those are eyes. So you put them as ones. But let me look up this samples.
This is what I was talking about with the Islamic people trying to say that they come from different eras because of their mindset. Now look at this right here. So I was talking about Brother Law earlier. Make this bigger on the screen so everybody could see it. Several West African traditions indicate a genealogical connection between Black Africans and the ancient Canaanites. Mohammed Bello, scholar and second sultan of Sokoto in Hausaland, wrote a history of the Yoruba in 1812. He included this account of Yoruba origins. The people of the lands of Yoruba are from the remnants of the people. Let me get Johnny back in here. The people of the land are from the remnants of the people of the Banu Canaan, who were the tribe of Nimrod. The reason for their dwelling in the West, based upon what has been narrated, is that Yorub ibn Qatan drove them out from Iraq towards the west. They then journeyed between the lands of Egypt and Abyssinia until they reached the lands presently known as Yoruba. In every land in which they passed, they left behind a group of their people in the land. They said that the indigenous blacks who reside in the mountains of Nuba in this region is from them. Likewise, are the people of Yaru from them. The explorer Hugh Clapperton visited Bello in Sokoto and copied large parts of Bello's work, which he later published. The story of Yoruba origins corresponds to what Bello wrote, except that Clapperton has the Canaanites originated not from Iraq, but from Arabia. Another traditional history has the Yoruba coming from Medina. Still others put their origin in Mecca. Another West African source, the Kano Chronicle, details the history of the Hausa people of northern Nigeria, whose origin it claims lie in two migrations, one from Baghdad and one from Canaan. Older scholarship accepted the history of these migration stories. The consensus of scholarship today, however, does not. Robin Law and others have concluded that the Yoruba stories are legendary. The more general view nowadays, at least among academic historians, is that these traditions of migration from the Middle East are to be explained by the expansion of the influence of Islam in sub-Saharan Africa. In relatively recent times, the concern of African peoples to claim origins from the Islamic world reflects no more than a desire to relate themselves to what was seen as a prestigious world civilization. Yep, that's what I said earlier, right? I'm just copying what these guys say. That's what it is. Robin Law, the Hamitic hypothesis, and this is some of the sources that they use. Similarly, last road of the Hausa accounts and da-da-da-da.
And this read that you're looking through now is from where?
The book?
Yes.
I'm gonna show you when I finish. Similarly, more last road of the Hausa accounts in the Cana Chronicle that they're almost wholly legendary, reflecting 16th or 17th century anachronisms. An indication of the Islamic influence is the adoption of various Muslim traditions and personalities in these stories of origins. As Law has shown, these traditions and personalities were adopted even to fashion stories that legitimately opposition to Islam. I think I gave it. Go ahead, Brother Law. What are you saying?
So, Brother Allah, you trying to establish Mecca before Muhammad? Brother Allah?
He's doing some research on that.
You won't find nothing on that.
Probably arose from the desire of the Yoruba in contact with Islam to define the relationship of their own civilization to that of the Muslim world in a way which claimed for the former an antiquity and status comparable to that of the latter, perhaps also accounted for their points of similarity between them, while at the same time stressing the separation between the two. Since in Muslim tradition, Nimrod was in conflict with Islam, he would serve well in stories of origin as the ancestor of the non-Muslim Yoruba. That makes a lot of sense. The claims of the origins in the East goes beyond the Yoruba and the Hausa. Law mentions the kings of Ghana, who claim descent from the Caliph Ali, the son-in-law and fourth successor of Muhammad. The founder of the first royal dynasty in Songhai, believed to be of Yemeni origin, the royal dynasty in Mali, which claimed descent from two companions of Muhammad, and the royal dynasty in Borno, which claimed descent from Saif ibn Da'i Yazan, who, although living before the time of Muhammad, can be thought of as a proto-Islamic hero as a defender of Mecca against Christian imperialism. The Saharan Kunta people traced their descent to Uqba ibn Nafi, the commander of the Muslim conquest of the Maghreb in North Africa. So too, the Berbers, who claim a Canaanite or Yemenite ancestry. The genealogical claim made by virtually every significant Arabic and Berber-speaking noble group in the Sahel invoke an Arab-Muslim origin. And Morlas writes to me, in the 1960s, my professor and I did a survey, an account of all the peoples in West Africa for whom there were traditions, of all the people that claimed a Middle Eastern origin. And when we reach 43, we call it a day. More such stories are coming up almost every year. Yep. The explanation given for these genealogies that they reflect the inhabitants' desire to relate themselves to what was seen as what? Prestigious world civilization. Makes sense for the genealogies that are traced to Muslim or proto-Muslim heroes. But how can they explain the traditions that consider the ancient ancestor to have been Canaan, who is not considered to be the forefather of the Muslim Arabs? The Arabs trace their genealogy to Shem, not to Canaan. The answer seems to lie in the common Muslim practice examined above, which goes back to the 7th century, that Canaan was the ancestor of the Cushites and other dark-skinned African peoples. It does not seem unreasonable to conclude that this tradition influenced some of the inhabitants of West Africa as Islam moved westward into the continent. Oh, man. Oh, the name of the book is, I thought I had it right here. Let me get a picture of it right here. I gave it to you before now. I gave it to you before, but I'll give it to you again. Let me get the cover of the book. Yeah, Brother Law, I gave you the book already now. I gave you this book before. It's by what's it called? A gentleman named right here, Black and Slave, right here. David Goldenberg and Black and Slave, The Origins and History of the Curse of Ham. Look at this. So Garfield right again. Whitewash originated in the late 16th century as a literal term for a cheap white lime-based. That's what I said. I said lime, right? I said lime white. That's what I said. Liquid paint used to coat and clean walls or fences. Yep.
Yes, Garfield, I actually found it. That's what I was trying to, before I dropped off. I actually found the title of the book. You gave it to me in the past.
Okay. Brian, what's your name is? Tino Harming or whatever your name is. Do you want to come on the stage and talk and challenge me? Y'all are obsessed with foolishness. One way says, as Garfield line, swore the etymology means dark, false equivalization. Okay, all right. No problem. I don't argue with people who are ignorant. You're ignorant to the conversation. If I go to etymology.com right now, let's go to etymology.com, seeing that you know everything and you're right. Let's go to etymology.com.
You know, Garfield, I'm actually going to get off now because I was actually having a chat with Unusual in the chat, and me and him was having a conversation back and forth in Hebrew. And what I find now, and it really behooves me, is that you get a lot of brothers that come up on all these channels and engage in the text and things of that nature, and they don't read Hebrew nor write Hebrew. And it just blows my mind. It really does. But I'm going to let you gentlemen go. You guys enjoy the rest of your Sunday, man, with your families. Eat some good food. and relax and get ready to go back to the plantations in the morning.
Oh, there you go, my brother.
All right. Peace and blessings to you guys, man.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's look at what he said. He said, Garfield, you are a liar. Right here. Let me put it on the screen. Garfield lying. Swore the etymology means dark. Okay, so what does dark mean? What does dark mean? Dark colored. Swarthy. This is swarthy, the adjective describing now. Tawny, especially in reference to skin. 1580 as an unexplained alteration of swarthy from sword plus y related swarthiness. Da 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 da. Swart, black, being of a dark hue in reference to night clouds, also figurative. It can mean wicked, infamous, okay, dark colored, black, okay, dirty, dark, black. The native Germanic word surviving in the continental language is what displaced in English by black. Okay, watch this. Watch how Garfield counted this with ease. This is so easy. Easy. And we're gonna look at some visuals too. Because we gotta get this out the way. Now look at this guy. Is he black? Walt Whitman, 1819 to 1892. Is he black? Look at this, ladies and gentlemen, that's watching. Look at this guy. Let me make this smaller so everybody can read it. Only those whose skin appeared brownish or swarthy were taken as dark, and those having a yellowish or somewhat muddy tint were regarded as fair. Now watch this, ladies and gentlemen. This guy right here, Walt Whitman, look what he wrote. Behold this swarthy face. What swarthy face is this? Who is this guy? Who is this guy? Who is this guy? Some of you guys don't know what you're talking about, yo. And this is sad. Look at this guy right here. Attention should be drawn to Spinoza, that swarthy olive complexion Jew. Those are pictures that were drawn while he was alive, during his lifetime.
We can't see the pictures right now, Garfield.
Oh, my bad, bro.
Good.
My bad. I'm talking to myself. Let me look at these. Let me put these pictures on the screen. Let me take this off. Make this bigger. Let me go through this real carefully. All right. So swarthy means dark skin. If you like tall, dark, and handsome, isn't that what white folks say they say they like? That's their dream guy. Tall, dark, and handsome. You find a swarthy complexion attractive. Say that everyone with dark skin isn't swarthy. It describes weather-beaten skin tanned by the sun. Not Garfield. Behold, Walt Whitman. Behold, swarthy face. Look at Walt Whitman. Is this dark? What do you call this?
Weather beaten.
Beaten. What is it? What is it? It's
Swarthy.
European descriptions of swarthy or tawny are inconsistent. This is what another thing the Israelites like to quote. Benjamin Franklin said Africans as black, tawny, and the Spanish, French, Russian, Swedes, and Germans as swarthy. So when they use this quote, they say swarthy. Swart means black, so swarthy must mean black people. So the Russians, French, Spanish, Germans, and Swedes were swarthy. No. The standard is anybody who's from England is the only white people on earth. That's the standard. They're light white people are the people that are considered black. I mean, considered swarthy, weather-beaten complexion.
Garfield, can you share my screen real quick?
1 second. Let me just show one more thing. Show one more thing. Attention should be drawn to Baruch Spinoza, that swarthy olive complexion Jew of penetrated eye and long black hair. And this is what he looked like. So this guy is called swarthy. Is he black? You got to know the culture and what you're talking about, man. You guys come on the internet and don't read nothing and just have all the answers. Like, yeah, I'm right. And nobody could tell where he at. Let me see where he at, what he saying. You not saying nothing in the chat? Where he at? Where he at in the chat? He gone. Nobody wants to be wrong.
Hey, Garfield, this is a hey. Check this out. This source, Benjamin Franklin. Are you familiar with this Benjamin Franklin source?
I just read it. I just read it.
Oh, the 1751. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I just read it.
Okay.
It's crazy, man. Craziness. This is look at this is Johnny's, who's that? Your pops?
Grandfather.
Your grandfather. And was he called swarthy?
I think it says dark.
Okay. What's that? His birth paper?
That's the naturalization.
So he's called dark. Look at that. You got to know where you live and what time period and what year and what context. This is craziness. Those pictures are propaganda. Look at this guy. Look at this guy. Look at this guy. These are European standards, bro. It's not about you. You're new to the world. This is why I know black people. This is all right. So when the Arab guys went to Europe, right? They were rubbing this African guy that came because they never saw anybody black in Europe before. So if blacks was ruling Europe the whole time or blacks control Europe, why would they be rubbing a black man's skin? We're not used to seeing people like you because black folks really didn't live in Europe. Is a cold culture, cold region. These guys is nuts. Oh, man. This is craziness. The definition by whom? Who are they talking about? These are white folks talking about other white people. You are not in the picture. You are not in the conversation. This is what you see. This is why you've been corrupted by the One West teachings. White people describing other white people. Oh, you from Spain and France, oh, you're dark and swarthy. But the people in England is light, is fair. They're using those words for them. They don't use those words they don't use swarthy for light-skinned people. I mean, not light-skinned people. They don't use swarthy for what we'd call black today as African Americans. They don't use that. They call you what you is. They say Negro, they say Ethiopian, or they say blackamoor. That's what they say. This is European describing European. I could give you the scholarship on it, bro. If you come on stage, I'll pull the scholarship out. You got to learn. You think you know everything. Where do you know? Where do you think I know this from? I had to study this. I didn't grow up in England. How would I know they call the Irish blue people? How? How would I know they call them Dormgoyne or whatever? How would I know that? The Irish are called blue people. Then we call them black Irish. Who call them black Irish? You see, that's another thing too. Why don't you all come on stage and learn? Who called the Irish black Irish? Where did that come from? Come on, come on. It's craziness. Why do they call black people in Ireland blue people? Let me put this video on the screen by this beautiful, beautiful sister real quick. Let me put it on the screen real quick.
Triumphs of those who are of African and Caribbean descent in the UK and Ireland. As Ireland becomes increasingly diverse and attracts people from all over the world, it is critical that we pause and reflect on the contributions of some of these communities, such as people of African and
Now you said, bro, Chaz 74 said blue people. Yeah. So when they say black Irish, they're not talking about black people. They call black people in Ireland blue people. Well, how would you know that if you're not from the culture? How would we know that, Dan or Johnny or King J? How would I know that? How would Garfield know that if I'm not from Ireland? How would I know that they call black people blue people?
You wouldn't know.
Hey. So when you talk about the black Irish, and the crazy part about black Irish is Americans invented that term. This is the crazy part about the term black Irish. Americans invented that term. And it's people who look like Baruch or Johnny. But we want to listen to these One West guys who don't even have a 4th grade education. They're reading this stuff and say, oh, they're black. They're really black. Oh, they said he's dark. It's crazy.
I've always thought I look kind of like that picture of Baruch Spinoza as well.
Yes. That's crazy, yo. How would I know black people is called blue people? And I'm gonna let somebody who come from the culture tell you about it. That's why I put this video on, bro. Look at her explanation.
It commemorates the stories, the trials, the tribulations, and the triumphs of those who are of African and Caribbean descent in the UK and Ireland. As Ireland becomes increasingly diverse and attracts people from all over the world, it is critical that we pause and reflect on the contributions of some of these communities, such as people of African and Caribbean descent. Therefore, Black History Month and the month of October itself is very important to us in Durham. Not only were we founded in October 2020, but I know it may come to surprise for some of you, but I'm Black. Jokes aside, Durham's DNA and our mission to unify across differences was born out of magnifying and celebrating ethnically diverse voices and their intersections by challenging prejudice through intercultural and interactive engagements. But did you also know that even the name Durham is tied to Black Irish history? On this Black History Month video, we want to share why we picked the word Durham to represent us. Hi, my name is Momobo, founder of Durham and social psychologist. And if you want to learn how to unify across differences, make sure you are subscribing to our channel. So back in the day, before we had the cranberries, or even when Guinness was not in the picture of Ireland, the Irish language struggled with words referring to people who were not racialized as white. For example, you had words such as fardov, which was used to refer a man who had black features, such as black hair or black skin. But when you capitalize fardov, it means something really different, and that is the devil. Unfortunately, this is consistent to how other languages in the past tended to equate dark skin with something dirty or even evil.
The word for black people in Ireland would have literally mean, if it's capitalized, I think, it means the devil. I don't remember what it is, fear gorn. It means that would be the word, the true word for black people. But what happened is it's the same word as the devil. So remember, in England, in Europe, and all over, the word for devil or evil was always dark or black. That's always considered evil. Even if you go back to the Greek times, it's considered evil. Had nothing to do with skin tone, per se. Remember that.
And like, do I prefer a man who had to people who were not racialized as white? For example, you had words such as fardov, which was used to refer a man who had black features, such as black hair or black skin. But when you capitalize fardov, it means something really different, and that is the devil. Unfortunately, this is consistent to how other languages in the past tended to equate dark skin with something dirty or even evil. And like, do I look like the devil? I'm actually an angel sent from the skies above me. However, of course, the Irish scrapped the word fardov to refer to a person of color and introduced the word Dinna Gurm. It's a bit odd because if your Irish is not rusty, and mine is because I did pass in the Leaving Cert, so if you want to triple fact check this video, please comment, tell us if there's any errors. In the Irish language, Dinna means person and Gurm means blue, which combined literally means blue person. And yes, Gurm means blue. And now you know why our brand colors are blue and why I literally wear blue to every public occasion. However, what I don't get is why blue skin? If I'm being the devil's advocate here, or Fardov's advocate, it makes sense for movies such as the Oscar-winning movie Moonlight, inspired by the play titled In Moonlight, Black Boys Look Blue, where yes, some skin tones with cool undertones under certain conditions can look bluish. So I can see that for people maybe with deep complexions there, but Dinna Gurm can be quite artistic in those levels. However, for generations, the word Dinna Gurm has been used to describe people who were not racialized as white or people of color in Ireland. So if you're not white, you're effectively blue. The other option left was Dinna Jacha, which means colored person. And that's very much giving South African apartheid, and we are not into that. So the terms we had so far no longer serve the culturally diverse makeup of Ireland in today's world. The best term we had for Black or person of color was Dinna Gurm. That was until 2021 when Gaeilgeoir Ola Majegodumi suggested Dinna Dada, which literally means person of color, as an alternative. The petition was heard and is now officially included in the National Terminology Database in Ireland. Some of you may think, but why is this important? Well, The devil is in the details. I swear to God, Fire Dove is after being cemented in my head. Language is how we make sense of the world and how we communicate with each other. It may be verbal, non-verbal, through sign language as well. And that is why this is very important. Our name, Gurm, pays homage to the original meanings of the words Dinagurm by referring to those as non-white or even othered in Irish society. It is a callback to those who were called blue, even if they were not blue. At the same time, it's a way to take the label and bring it into Ireland that is having more nuanced and difficult conversations about topics such as race, ethnicity, and culture. An Ireland that's having dialogue between communities, dialogue that preserves the history, heritage, and language of Ireland, whilst also allowing it to evolve through diverse and current perspectives. And that's why we at GERM are on a mission to unify across differences between the past, the present, and the future, and creating a space to have difficult conversations across lines of difference. We want to address the polarization that is affecting us all. We've come to understand that things are not always black and white, and most of the time, things are GERM. Also, this Black History Month, if you want to hear about Black Irish perspectives or people in Afro-Caribbean backgrounds in Ireland, I suggest you guys get the book Black and Irish: Legends, Trailblazers, and Everyday Heroes from our friends in Black and Irish. They have put a tremendous amount of work in this book, and it's a book that 11-year-old Mamoba would have died for. So please.
All right. Now, look at this crazy guy. As late as 1800 years, as late at 1800 years, Europe wasn't majority white. I don't know what you mean, 1800 years ago or 1800, the year 1800. Either way, you're wrong. Anyway, you're wrong. You take it. Anyway, you're wrong. You can't prove it. You can't prove 1800 years ago. You can't prove that. But again, the word swarthy has several meanings. It also has figurative meanings as wicked or infamous. So we need to know what context it is being used as an adjective, as a noun. What does it mean? And how to use it, and how to use it in the proper context. Don't listen to these crazy guys who are Hebrew Israelites. Most of them don't know what they're talking about. And again, I want all the smoke, and nobody showed up. Nobody showed up. Nobody, because everybody wants to be right. Everybody wants to be right. Don't say no African American has J1 or Q, whatever. No, because what's his name has it? Sean has J1. Don't say that. Sean from Massey Warrior Clan is J1, so don't say that. I can't agree with that because that's not true. Well, anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I'm out of here. King J, is there anything else you wanted to bring up?
No, I'm good.
All right, cool. All right, Johnny, peace and love to y'all, man. I'm out of here. I'm gonna go watch some basketball later.
Peace.
All right, peace.